everyone, and good morning, and welcome to 2021 Figment Online. I'm very excited to be presenting today. I'm from an organization. My name is Navpreet, and I'm from an organization called Broadening Horizons, and we use art to engage the community in social thinking. I'm going to share my screen to give you a visual. Perfect. So B8 is a not-for-profit organization that uses art to engage the community in lots of different ways that we can create change in the community. We are very excited to be presenting the Power of One project with you this morning. This particular project is our community project that has been around since 2012, where we use art to stop hate through a reflection piece. So that is just a little blurb about what the Power of One project is. I will share that this project was started by a young person named Gurveer Singh, a young person with Down syndrome who experienced a lot of bullying while she was going to school throughout middle school and high school, and used art as a medium to express that experience and change her negative experience from negative to positive. And so the birth of this project started as a pop-up version, so you were able to see the canvas that was created here. These are versions of the Power of One project. When we do it live in the community, we would set up a canvas, we would engage the community in thinking about a negative experience or a negative word or term that they have heard in the community, and then we transform it using the same community into something really positive. So I'm very excited to get started with a new one today. You'll be doing individual ones. So this is the question you can throw into the chat for us, and anybody who would like to participate through chat, our amazing volunteers are here to kind of moderate that with us. But my check-in question to you is, if you could be any animal, creature, mystical, or creative, what would you choose and why? And as we get this part thinking and we're starting this workshop, I just want to take a moment to acknowledge that we're all here gathered on Indigenous lands. And the beauty about virtual online workshops is that we're all in different places. So when I take a moment to acknowledge that I'm here on this land that belongs to the Indigenous community, I reflect on my own space, the space that I'm in. So regardless of where you're gathered or how we're gathered today, I want you to just take a few moments as you're thinking about nature, creative creatures, where you are, how you are occupying, how are you respecting the space that you're using at the moment. And yeah, I would love for participants and volunteers to share if they could be any animal, creature, mystical or not, what would they be and why? I'm not seeing the chat, but if we have anything in the chat, if volunteers can just call them out for us. So when I do my reflection on mystical creatures or creatures in general, animals, and I think about what would I be, I usually choose something that is able to fly. I like the idea of being able to move from one space to the next. I do see the chat. I'm going to jump in here as well. Amazing. Okay, so I think I see a Sasquatch. I like cozy sweaters and solitude. Amazing. Thank you so much for that. Definitely a great creature to connect with, and really connected to the earth as well. So I can really appreciate that. Okay, so I do see some messages in the chat. I'm just going through the mystical creatures I choose as a unicorn because my daughter, Zelda, loves them. Otherwise, I would be a female, Sabe. Oh, okay, very cool. I'm not familiar with the creature.
That would be a Sasquatch as well.
Oh, a Sasquatch as well. Sorry. Yes. Amazing. Thank you very much. Definitely earthy creatures. I see a comment here as well. It's from Tulsa, right? Not sure if anyone has went or your chat. Sorry, I'm reading, but I'm very close to my screen. Bonjour. Hola, my name is Telsa. Go by Ella. Pronouns. My pronouns and why one uses pronouns, calling it an okay, not just kind of around the road. They are passionate about these topics and intersecting the Asian, Indigenous, Black, disabled experience as an Afro-Indigenous Asian. That is very optimistic about this class. Thank you for holding space. Imagine description: frizzy hair, black frizzy hair, sorry. Black eyes with acorn brown eyes, wearing a red shirt, land pack. Thank you for acknowledging that you're here. I really appreciate that. Thank you for bringing the point forward. Yes, I do acknowledge my land acknowledgement in the beginning was very vague. I can be more direct. And it's important too. And I think that's why one of the points that I put forward is that I have to acknowledge the space that we're in. We're from all around the world. I'm glad you're here. This workshop is not meant to be an expert level. We're not experts in this world. I think we're all learning and growing. I'm really looking forward for your participation. I'm not the best at reading and facilitating at the same time. It's a little challenging for me. I am a person who has a learning disability, as I'm sharing along here as well, and this is kind of challenging, but I'm just gonna continue as much as I can. And I'm glad that you're here with us. Thank you. This is how I have been told from hearing folks to pronounce my name. Okay, thank you very much. I'm gonna check it out. If I'm pronouncing it correctly, Telsa, I'm gonna proceed with that. I am going to ask for some support with the chat just so that I'm not missing anything and we can share those voices as well. As we get started, this is going to be the hard one. This is a question that I put forward, and just to bring you back to this workshop just a little bit. It started because identifying discrimination can be very challenging. Yes, thank you. So for me right now, the reflection around discrimination is a really important one. A lot of the times it's important to unpack some of our own experiences to know how we can grow or learn or be in the community in different ways. And sometimes it's important because we haven't been able to heal or grow from them as well. And we use art as a creative way or as a tool to actually do that, because it's something that once you start flowing with paint or you start flowing with whatever art medium you have in front of you, it's a form of expression. A lot of the times it's a way that we get something out of us that we wouldn't usually be able to with words. And sometimes words are what we use because that's our medium, and we're most comfortable with words, which is also okay. This is a general definition, and we put it up there because a lot of times people ask me, like, where do you get your facts from? And so discrimination is an act, a decision to treat somebody or a group unfairly based off of not just these 3 things here or 4 things here, their race, age, disability, or class. It's so much wider than that. So thank you. So to get started, what I'm going to ask you to do is to get your stuff ready. You're going to need a canvas. You're going to need to start off with some black paint. And if you don't have black paint, it doesn't matter. You can choose one color paint that you want to use as your base color, and then we're just going to grow it from there. We usually use black at the beginning because it was a way to have a contrast, but we've learned over the years of doing this workshop that we can't just limit ourselves to this color. You can use any colors that feel good to you. And your brushes. Whatever brush you want to use, it's totally up to you. Grab your brushes. Really important when we're doing any kind of self-awareness or when we're doing any type of reflection, we need to think about where we are at the moment, the space that we're in. to get ourselves comfortable, to get ourselves grounded. So a lot of times when I facilitate this workshop with young people, I have to, or actually adults with lots of different ages, when we do the individual pieces, it's really important to do some grounding before we start. And one of the ways I like to do that is definitely by using our hands. Our hands are what we're going to use to do some creating today. Our hands have and do a lot for us. So Tulsa, I'm going to call out the 5 things you're going to breathe out. And then we're going to use our hands and we're going to follow along. And I want you to do your own reflection with this and take some deep breaths with me, because breathing is one of the most helpful tools when we get ready to reflect. So the first thing when you're breathing, I want you to take your hand right up to the screen if you can. Start at the bottom, and with every breath, when you take your breath in, you're going to trace that hand to the very top. At the top, I'm going to give you a prompt. The prompt is what you're going to reflect about. As you breathe that breath out, you're going to come out and you're going to think about that reflection. When you get to the next one with your deep breath, I'm going to give you the next prompt, okay? Everybody is good to go? We're going to start.
Now, before you begin, just so that everyone can follow along, could you just repeat that so I can type that out into the chat first? Thank you.
Thank you. Can you put breathing activity or breathing exercise with your hand? Yeah? Perfect. And at the top of every breath, when you trace your hand, I will give you a prompt.
Okay, got that.
Okay, perfect. So when I say the prompt, is it easy for you to just type that word out? It's going to be 1-word prompts.
Okay, yes, let me write that.
Perfect. Okay, so take a deep breath in. And at the top of that finger, your first prompt when you come down is going to be thinking about nature. Deep breath, let that all out. Get to the bottom of the next finger. Deep breath in. To the top of that finger, I want you to think about the sound that makes you feel really good, and I want you to let that breath out. And I think the next prompt is all the way to the next top finger. Deep breath in. And when you let that deep breath out, I want you to think about something that makes your tummy happy. It makes you feel really good when you eat it. And when you let it go, come all the way down to the bottom. Take a deep breath in and come to the second last finger, top of the finger. I want you to let that out with something you feel grateful for. And when you come all the way down to the bottom and you take your last deep breath in and you let that deep breath out, I want you to think about something you're looking forward to. So for translation, the first one will be nature. The second one will be sound. Third one will be something that makes your stomach happy, makes you feel good. The fourth one is grateful. And the last one is looking forward to. Thank you so much. Yes, there is definitely an alternative to sound. You can feel it too. Sound is vibration. Or it could be something that makes you smile when you see, because we hear and see with our eyes as well. The color that makes you feel good can be the alternative. And I'm so happy that we're having this space, because I am learning here. I am growing here.
Sorry, for the alternative to sound, you said it could be something that we could see, color, anything like that?
Yeah, the color would be a perfect one. Thank you. Yeah, I really appreciate that. And that's the beauty about this workshop, and one of the reasons why it was started, because there are so many things that we as community, regardless of how much we work in community, are still learning and growing. And we need, and it sometimes, unfortunately, it's done on the labor of individuals who are from those spaces to teach the other community. And I'm so proud that we're able to hold this space for us to do growth today. So I can appreciate this very much. So to start, I want you to think about a word, a term, a phrase, a statement, something that you can reflect on as an individual of an experience of discrimination. So I'm sure you can probably still see my screen. I'm gonna move this up here. And how that looks like to you on your painting is completely up to you. So this is an example. I shared that I have a learning disability. And so growing up, this is a word that was used to describe me sometimes when I was reading, because I'm a very slow reader. It was an example. I actually have this as an example when I do the workshops, but it's something that I've had to reflect about a lot. So I want you to start off your canvas, and you can do that however you want. So however you want to paint it, however you want to hold it, it doesn't matter. And we know discrimination is actually experienced on so many levels, in all different ways. Sometimes individuals share that experience, and sometimes they don't have the similar ones, but they have ones that are very connected. Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm reading the messages to make sure I don't miss anything there as well. But definitely, this is just my base canvas. And sometimes it's not one word, sometimes it's multiple words. When we think about discrimination, a lot of the times we need to reflect on the intersecting of many or a few different forms. Sometimes it's not just one part of us that is being discriminated, it's multiple parts of us. Perfect. The really important part about thinking about discrimination, sometimes if we feel we have not experienced our own form, is to think about the community around us and how they may be experiencing it. So a lot of the times this workshop is more while you're painting in person, we can talk and describe our experiences with each other. And I open up this space for any of that sharing if anybody would be open to it. And maybe it doesn't happen exactly at this moment, but if you feel comfortable to share your word. I have another experience. I am very happy that I am in a space where there are also Indigenous people here, because this is a reflection of mine as well. Being a person of color, being a brown person, a lot of the times growing up, I was also discriminated because individuals couldn't figure out exactly which race I belonged to. And a lot of the times experiences of discrimination aren't as overt, so they're not as obvious. Sometimes they're experienced in ways of what we would call a microaggression, something that is experienced in a way where it's not intended to discriminate, but it is discriminating and is not sometimes done in an intentional way. I see that beautiful canvas. I would love to hear a little bit about what you painted.
I wrote gay, fat, and dumb, because those are all things that people have discriminated against me for.
Yeah. Those are really important words, right? Because when we think about discrimination, there's so many multiple layers to it, right? When we think about beauty and we think about the idea of what beauty standards are, body size is a huge category of that, right? But that all depends on who's experiencing it. And yeah, so thank you for bringing that space, those identities in as well, and for the LGBT plus community too. The experience is endless. So I did bring a few pieces around me while others are completing that first process, just to give you an idea of what we're going to move forward to. And if you've completed your blank black canvas, please get your creative colors ready, because the next part is for you now, just to do some self-reflection and self-care. this particular piece here was created by a young person. We did a workshop in Peel region in particular, we did this piece with young people at the Mississauga Community Health Center reflection group for the trans community. And so this particular piece, if you look very carefully at some of the beginning pieces of their negative experiences, a lot of it was questioning their gender. And so Be a Man is a very bold one that they had been told quite a bit, and on top of them they transformed it into something very beautiful piece, and it says be you, and I think that's very powerful. So when I say transform your piece, the transformation is up to you. It's your self-care and your reflection, and the beauty about it is that some of these experiences don't go away that easy, just like your undertone of that piece that you've created, because they don't leave us that easy, right? And that's the beautiful part of these, is the growth that we have. Going back to even the word dumb, slow, weak, those are very common terms that are describing individuals with disabilities. So this word here has the word weak that was painted in it. And they didn't actually cover up the word. They transformed it into so many cherry blossoms, which is a really beautiful way of not changing the fact that you may feel this way, but emphasizing that, you know, these cherry blossoms are so weak when they start, but they grow is so beautiful. So you can take your word and you can transform it in any way you would like. These are just a few areas that we usually have conversations around in our workshops. Participants bring up a few of these, and I always say to my group that I'm facilitating with, this is not the limit of experiences of discrimination. This is the amount that I was able to put on this PowerPoint without it feeling overwhelming. And I know that a lot of very important ones are missing. And as I grow and as this workshop grows, we're going to be able to continue learning to add and to change or to bring other ones forward. But these may be a few that you have or are connected to. So as you're reflecting, a lot of times people...
sorry to interrupt. Can you go back to the screen?
Yeah.
Yeah, I refer to it in this message, so I just want to make sure everyone can see it first.
Of course, thank you.
Also, Therese, forgive me if that's not the correct way to pronounce your name. They mentioned society. I'm not sure if you saw it.
Mm-hmm.
Therese, yeah.
Therese, society, in terms of a form that discriminates, or I'm not too sure what I understand by that term society, what they mean. Also reflecting on positionality, like even with discrimination, where can I hold space for various variations of them? So sometimes often get asked is, can we speak? Up there is various ways of communicating using sign, adapting, using, and this is a link.
I think Therese meant they were making a correction to their previous response. The one above. Sometimes the one I sent with, sometimes we talk about the example on the screen. So often get fixed to the norm in society, also reflecting on positionality, I think in reference to that comment.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, positionality, knowing where you are, who you are, where you're situated is a very important part. Where your privileges are, where your discourses are. So discourses meaning the different parts about yourself that in society are seen as or are placed as inferior in some way. So, is it okay if I switch a screen? Okay. That often even I am deaf does not take up all the space. there is colorism. There is maybe reflecting that when gets invited to as a facilitator, who did not get invited, who did, okay, sorry. That often even I am deaf does not mean that takes up all the space. There is colorism. There is maybe reflecting that when getting invited to facilitate, who did not get invited because maybe need to work overnight and or invite or seen as having an accent or different ways of speaking or need to take up more time. That's a great point. And the different layers of discrimination can be almost endless as an experience. And it's a great point. And I think your question is who gets invited to facilitate. I'm not sure about who gets invited to facilitate, but I know for this space, facilitation was put out through social media, and I'm not sure if that's what we're reflecting about, but that's a great point. In general, who and where we get to facilitate is a and who has the opportunity. Even when I think about being a facilitator in the community, if I have access to funding, do I have access to funding? Do I have access to a space that I can even facilitate in at the moment is a privilege. And so I can really appreciate that point. It is a different reflection even when I think about that. I'm saying myself, it is not clear. I have hard time typing and I'm a facilitator as well in other spaces. I think it is a hard experience to facilitate and type at the same time. I find it challenging, so I can only imagine. This is just another way we reflect about discrimination and the different ways that we experience discrimination. Sometimes thinking about stereotypes really gives us a reflection about the discrimination that is experienced in society.
Sorry, now could you repeat that and maybe speak slightly slower? Sorry.
Yeah, I'm sorry. So we can sum it up to stereotypes are experiences of discrimination in society and reinforce discrimination. You're very elegant at summing up my points there. Thank you.
Thank you.
So if you have not done so already, I'm going to ask you to add some positivity to your canvas. If you have not, oh, I see some being transformed there. If you have not done so and you'd like to share anything before we move forward, please let me know as well. This is the one that you see. And so I took the word loser and I added just a V to change it into lover. And it doesn't have to stop there. You can get very creative with yours. You can add backgrounds and you can add so many additional elements to your art. And this is where I just do a little pitch about letting paint flow. If you add a little bit of water to your creative palette, you would be able to spread that paint out. The beauty is that there is no right or no wrong answer. I'm just going to read the chat. Put on that we're not good enough to do roles like for police. They don't hire sometimes for architecture or for being artists. There's not a lot of amazing art that art with disabilities can make. Like this, there is a festival coming up for only Black deaf artists. Yeah, that's a great point. There actually isn't a lot of art organizations that are there are a few, but there's not a lot. And so it's a great point, because this project was started by a young person with Down syndrome. And she approached Broadening Horizons to say, hey, I need a space to do this in the community. And because we had the ability, the privilege, and the skills, and I'll be very truthful, this was actually my younger sister's project, because she wasn't able to get her art out there. We had to start an organization to make that happen, actually. And so I appreciate this point so much, because it is a very powerful point. There are not enough organizations that make it accessible, inclusive for individuals with disabilities to support this project, or support art created by individuals with disabilities. Very important part. Inclusive art or inclusive education at post-secondary level is very difficult for individuals with disabilities. So thank you for bringing it forward. I'm just gonna stop sharing my screen one sec. I'm gonna pull up.
Now,
Yeah.
Les shared another comment, and they also asked for the screen to move a little slower.
No problem.
Okay.
Share once. Are you able to see my screen right now? Yeah, right?
Yes.
Okay. So this is our website. I will read the comments, sorry, before I go into our website. So also, organizations should all be included. It should not only organize that say that serve people with disabilities, because historically lots of disabled organizations that started by able bodies and or not people with full spectrum of disabilities. And you mentioned about people that do lots of labor, often in institutions. They assign diverse person to include, or the office. So this is a great point. Equality people and or the office to do the work, when I think it should be a culture question. Can we see this screen? Okay. Perfect. So definitely, so also organizations should all be included. It should not only organize. Yeah. And that's a part of how that organization, and that's a very fair point. And unfortunately, the change happens very slowly when there is change. And the full spectrum of disabilities can be different for every individual, and what that spectrum of disabilities and how you identify as a person with a disability. I think that's also up to individuals as well, because some people don't put their disability forward and don't want to be acknowledged with it, right? And I have to respect that community as well. But a lot of the times, organizations that support people with disability are started by able-bodied people that have privilege, because that has been the way that society has shaped it for us, right? It is an unfortunate part of where we are. And a lot of the times when I think about this project, The Power of One, it's so powerful because we can't ignore history, right? We can't ignore the facts of what happens or what has been said or what is in our community. And a lot of the times I'm asked, why do you ask to paint the negative before the positive? It's to take that moment to actually reflect that this is in our community, this exists. And if we don't identify it, unpack it, and learn from it, we're not going to be able to grow from it, right? We're not going to be able to know how to make the change from it. Just like this experience in itself. Now, I have learned something about how we can use Zoom to be more inclusive and to ensure that I know as an able-bodied person in this way that I need to ensure that this is a way that we make this project more inclusive as we move on to an online world. We have been moved on to an online world, and these are things that we're still going to grow with. I see a hand up, so.
Yeah, it's just Pamela. I wanted to make a quick comment. It's funny how I actually had to look up squaw in the dictionary, in my Google dictionary, because I didn't know how to spell it. You know what I mean? So I'm still kind of like figuring out if that's like good or bad or whatever, but I appreciate your work for sure. But just wanted to share that. It's kind of funny, I guess.
Yeah, no. Thank you for sharing that. And that's so true, right? Like there are so many things we're growing and learning, and I would love to see your piece, Pamela, as well. Or even if you're not sharing it here, I do leave some information about our website if you're ever interested in connecting with us. But the Figment team is a great team to, introduce. And this is where we have been able to take, a social justice project and bring it into the artistic space. And it's really unique because a lot of the times when we do creation for individual purpose. But this project really allows us to do creation for the purpose of awareness. And so I know I had mentioned the comment about the labor that is done. That's lots of ways. That's lots of ways to do things in general, which isn't always sometimes. Yeah, it which isn't always sometimes, it is always, right? It is always, unfortunately, when we talk, and depending on the space that I'm facilitating in, it's healthy for me to know where we are with knowledge levels on certain things, right? Because definitely there's an experience of going through this workshop in a very deep part, and that's the most important reflection.
Now, sorry to interrupt. Therese is asking about the PowerPoint because they forgot the prompt.
Prompt to change something into from negative to positive?
I believe so.
Basically you're at a point right now at your workshop. I'm sorry, I'm a little off here, but you're at a point where you're taking your negative experience and you're changing it into positive. That's just where we're at. And then that's basically the wrap up of the workshop, and you'll have your individual pieces. That makes sense.
Well, that was my point as well, is just that, if you were looking to evoke thought, it definitely did in me. And that's what I was saying. Like, I think it's funny that I actually had to look up a word that has been in my life since as far back as I can remember, So I'm going to try to forget it now, though.
Yeah.
Paint over it.
Yeah, paint over it. And that's the beauty about painting over it. And you'll notice even with your painting how you paint. And this doesn't end in just our time here. These pieces are your pieces now. And this reflection is your reflection now. And you can take as much time as you need to go through this. And the beautiful thing about painting sometimes is it's done in layers. And so a lot of times participants share with me that this becomes layered for them. Every time they experience a discourse, they come to this painting and they create something on top of it, or they add to it, or they change to it, or however it may be. But the power of this painting is that it's a reflection piece for yourself. And if it was just to spark your thinking about, actually this exists in the community and I have to reflect about it so I can move forward or grow or heal or teach others even about it, is the only thing that we want to get out of today. But thank you, Pamela, so much for sharing that. Yes, would you love to share that close to the screen? I see some yellow on it. Oh, it's beautiful. Oh, does that say moon love? And you did a great job. You took the word and would you love to share it with us? I would love to hear from you, please.
Yeah, so it says gay love, and then fat is beautiful and no one is dumb.
Yeah, amazing. And those words are so powerful, right? And I read the Eventbrite description, and we have that saying, sticks and stones may break your bones, but words will never hurt you. But words are actually the most powerful way of communicating. And regardless, and this is a lesson from this workshop too, because of the captions that were needed, words are ways that we send our messages. So I really appreciate how you did your play on words there. Thank you. Prompt. Okay, perfect. So if just to end off and wrap up, like I was saying, you don't need to complete everything here right now with us. If you do have something completed and you're okay with sharing, thank you for my painting. I will describe. I did the word behind iconic because it reminded, however, of the resistance. I did behind, be with my body in positive and being more perspective, intuition. Put a tree with leaves. Oh, beautiful. Tree with leaves going with turtles and their with colors. Oh, various cultures. Wow, beautiful. And I would love if there is a picture that if you can send it, we would love to share it with our group. And even if you share it with the Figment organizers, would love to be able to, the description of a tree with leaves and turtles just reminds me of our earth. So I'm very happy that it's connected to that imagery. Thank you very much. Yeah, I will. Okay, perfect. I'm gonna stop sharing my screen, and if anybody is interested in sharing with us, if we can just share, and the Figment team is just gonna capture an image of our pieces, and then we're gonna wrap up. I'm just gonna share a link to our, oh, you did 2 pieces, and share a link to our evaluation. And you know, there was some great suggestions and feedback and information that I learned here, and if you all can take a few minutes, it really helps us grow and, you know, make the work that we're doing in spaces that we need to have these conversations more and more. Unconventional spaces as well, I think, is really important for us to get feedback from, because we're usually going into spaces where people want to do this talk or are ready to talk about this, but we find it very impactful when we're in spaces where people aren't expecting this conversation. And that's one of the reasons why our pop-ups are so powerful, is because people are caught off guard when we're asking them to take a moment to reflect. And just like this one, there was so much reflection and teaching that happened here that I would love to be able to kind of capture or share that so that we can continue to grow. Yeah, I will share the link in the group. And at this point in time, I'm going to pass it over to the Figment organizers, and we're going to take a quick picture or a screenshot of the pieces. If you're okay with, you don't have to show your face. If you're okay, if you did create something and you want to turn on your screen and just put your picture up. If not, they're going to blur out whatever doesn't get captured, and we'll use that as the ending off for this workshop. But thank you again. It was really a privilege and a great experience, so much learning and growing, and please feel free to connect with me. I'll leave my email also in the chat if you you know, there is some great feedback that we'll definitely take forward to even my board to ensure, like when we're doing Zooms moving forward, that we're able to grow from here. So thank you.